What's happening, Raider Nation? It's your boy Soto here. You know what it is. Raiders versus the world. Talking about a team that the world loves to hate, your Las Vegas Raiders. So one of the guys that I really respect in the Raiders media is Tashawn Reed. Tashawn Reed had an article in The Athletic talking about his predictions, early predictions, mind you, of the 53-man roster. I thought it would be a cool idea to go take a look at it, see who he feels right now, who's going to make the team and who is not. There's always a surprise or two when the real roster comes out. There's always a couple of surprise cuts as well. So right now, take it with a grain of salt, but it's a nice exercise to see after OTAs, after minicamp. It's a great exercise to see who Tashawn Reed, who's been there and who's seen it, thinks will make the 53-man roster. But before we do, I want to make sure everyone please like, comment, and subscribe to this video. And it's an excellent way to support the channel. It's absolutely free to do, and it's the bare minimum you can do to support the channel besides doing absolutely nothing and just watching the video. Okay, let's get started with quarterback. All right, so Tashawn Reed had the quarterback as Geno Smith being the starting quarterback, and second string was Aiden O'Connell, and third string being Cam Miller. He kept calling him Cam Smith for whatever reason. I'm not going to bang on him too hard for that, but he called him Cam Smith, I think 2 or 3 times in this whole thing. But whatever, we know it's Cam Miller. The odd man out is, of course, Carter Bradley. He was the third string quarterback last season. I think everyone knows that Cam Miller is kind of like the heir apparent to the backup, maybe even more if he progresses. But I think his style fits a little bit more of what Chip Kelly likes to do. Even with the new Chip Kelly, he does like a mobile quarterback, and unfortunately, Aiden O'Connell is not that. So Aiden O'Connell is the smart pick to be the backup quarterback, but for how long, we don't know. So this is the quarterbacks. According to Tashawn Reed in the 53-man roster. All right, next up, we're going to talk about the running backs. All right, so no surprise at the top, right? Ashton Jeanty is the unquestioned starter right now, unless he falls flat on his face, which from reports of OTAs and minicamp, not likely to do. So Ashton Jeanty is going to be the starter. Behind him, we're going to have Raheem Mostert, Sincere McCormick, and Zeus White. Odd man out here is Dylan Laube. Dylan Laube was a late-round pick last season, a guy from a small school, a guy that was more of a receiving running back than a runner. He did have a nice game against the only big competition he had his senior year at, I believe it was New Hampshire. The thing that we take a look at here is when you bring to the table a lot of things, right? Like Laube brought to the table, he's a good receiver out of the backfield. He's good on special teams. You have to be better than the guys ahead of you. Are you telling me that Dylan Laube is a better receiver than, let's say, an Ashton Jeanty or a Raheem Mostert? No, that's not the case. So he's definitely not that. Is he a better runner than Sincere McCormick? No. He doesn't have the experience of Zeus White. We'll see what happens. And that's kind of like the tipping point here. Is Zamir White or is it Dylan Laube? If there's not a huge difference between Zamir White and Dylan Laube, I can see Dylan Laube sneaking in here and Zamir White being the cut. But unfortunately for Dylan Laube, he doesn't have the power game that that Zamir White has. But there's a big but here. JJ Pegues can take on a section, not the whole thing, but a section of that short yardage role, either short yardage or goal line type of role. He can do that. So if Dylan Laube really makes a big headway on special teams, and he can show that he can be more than just a guy out of the backfield catching the ball, and he can run the ball a lot better, I can see Dylan Laube hopping over Zamir White to take over that number 4 spot. All right, next up, tight ends. All right, worst kept secret in the NFL. Brock Bowers is starting tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders. So it's Brock Bowers, it's Michael Mayer, and it's Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas has been turning a lot of heads, not only because of his blocking, but because of his receiving as well. When you're an Ian Thomas, right, and you're coming in with not a lot of fanfare, okay, it was kind of like, oh, this guy's just a blocker or whatever, but he comes in here and he shows he has a little bit more wiggle to his game, and he has a little bit more ability with it, catching the ball than he's shown in the past. You take a look at him and you're like, well, is it just a situation he was placed in? Was it just kind of like the offensive system where it's like, we're not gonna highlight the tight end too much, we're just gonna make him a blocker and kind of let him leak out every now and then? Ian Thomas has been showing much more than just being a blocking third tight end. I can see them running some 31 personnel, because definitely Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers are true, legit weapons downfield. And I can see Ian Thomas being that guy over the middle or for the short intermediate routes. If they were to go something like that in a short yardage or maybe even a goal line or maybe even just, in the middle of the field when you want to get cut personnel off guard defensively. But this shows to be the group here. Not a lot of, surprise. There's not a lot of cry for me, Argentina, who's not going to make the team. Just, a couple of other guys like, Pat Conroy's a rookie out of Old Dominion, Kadir Ismail, out of Samford, Carter Runyon, rookie out of Townsend. These aren't guys that are going to really make a big splash. Shorter is now looked at as a tight end, third year. I don't know, man. We'll see. But ultimately, I think that there's going to be the three. I think Sean Reed has it right, the three tight ends here. All right, next up, wide receivers. All right, keep in 5. Okay, it all depends. It's kind of iffy how many we're going to pick up and how many we're going to keep, because this is a group that can be as I've seen groups that were 4 even sometimes, but 6, sometimes even 6, 7. Maybe not too much, but 5 or 6 is really the key here. How many you're going to keep? But we have Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, and Donte Thornton as the presumed starters, with Jack Besh and Tommy Mellott. That is not the ball boy. That is not an intern. That is Tommy Mellott, the Walter Payton Award winner for the FCS Offensive Player of the Year. That is him. That is. Yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, man. This guy's a beast. But these are the 5 wide receivers that Tashawn Reed says are going to be on the roster, in the 53-man roster to start the season. Some guys that, didn't make the cut in his eyes are like Kyle Phillips. Kyle Phillips was signed, an early signee in the process right after Chip Kelly got hired. Ketron Jackson, he was a guy that was a rookie out of Baylor. Zachary Franklin, the rookie from Illinois. Alex Bachman. Alex Bachman's been, this dude's been up and down for quite some time. He's been practice squad guy, reserve guy, this and that. So, you really didn't think he was going to make the squad outright. But yeah, there's a lot of guys on here that have a lot of flexibility. You have a lot of guys. You have 1, possibly 2, 3 guys on here who can be returners. And you have, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these guys can be slot receivers for sure. You're looking at probably Tucker and Thornton being the outside guys, with Jacoby Myers being a little bit of a flex role, mostly in the slot. You have Tommy Mellott probably being the backup slot receiver, and then Jack Besh kind of doing it all. So this is what we're looking at here with wide receivers. He said 5. It may be 5 or 6. We don't know what position group will lose a guy if we go through this and we do only 5. Who knows? If we do 6, what position group loses a guy? We'll have to take a look at that in a little bit. But next up, we're going to look at the offensive line. All right, here's the offensive lineman. And it's really no surprise. The thing that we have to take a look at here for a lot of what we're looking at here is the offensive line is pretty much set. I don't know if it would necessarily be a surprise, but Tashawn Reed has Dylan Parham starting over Jordan Meredith. But let's go through the offensive line. Going from left to right, you have Colt Miller, Dylan Parham. At center is Jackson Powers Johnson. You have Alex Kappa at guard. And then you have DJ Glaze starting at right tackle. Again, bottom row from left to right. You have Thayer Munford, Jordan Meredith. Then you have the 2 rookies, Charles Grant and Caleb Rogers. So these are guys that definitely have to grow and show that they're going to be able to be a part of the roster, because, man, they're only 1 play away from jumping in there. So he has a lot of confidence that these 2 third-round picks are going to be able to make this squad, and I think they're going to be able to make the squad as well. I think this is a good squad here. It's either 8 or 9 normally. He has 9, which is probably one you would take away from with a wide receiver group, but ultimately who are you going to get rid of? Jordan Meredith is pretty much, just as good as Parham. They're neck and neck as starters. Thayer Munford is really valuable, playing either tackle or guard. He started a lot of games. And the 2 rookies you spend 3rd round picks on would pretty much be a waste if they didn't make the roster and you got them plucked by somebody else. So you pretty much have to put them on the roster. So this is a pretty solid offensive line group right now that definitely has to improve from last season. All right, that is it for the offense. Let's take a peek at the defense, starting with the defensive line. All right, this is not a surprise here. We have Christian Wilkins, Leki Fatu, and Adam Butler. Leki Fatu is more of like a nose. He's absolutely massive. He's a huge human being, and he was let walk by the Cardinals. They didn't sign him back in free agency, and we picked him up, and I think he's going to be a really sneaky pickup. He's a really violent player in the middle of that defensive line, really going to be able to do a lot of things for us, like against the run for sure. He showed a little bit of pass rush ability last season, not too much, but a little bit. So we'll see if we can develop there. Backups, kind of a surprise. There's Zach Carter there. Zach Carter is to Sean Reed's list. Kind of need a little bit of experience there because you're going to have two rookies coming up next, and Tonka Hemingway and JJ Pegues. JJ Pegues is definitely going to be an asset. I see him playing also short yardage on offense as well, either fullback position or carrying the ball, either short yardage or goal line. And then you have Jonah Lualu. Jonah Lualu is a guy that came on last season because of injury and really showed a good account for himself. So there's a solid group here with seven defensive linemen, or quote-unquote interior defensive linemen. Seems like a lot. This could also be a group that may lose one to maybe if the receiver's going to get a sixth receiver or something like that. This may be a group that can lose one because it looks to be pretty big as far as the interior goes. Okay, next up is the edge rushers. Surprise, surprise, edge rushers. We have Maxx Crosby and Malcolm Kuntz starting on the outsides. Tyree Wilson, Charles Snowden, and Jaw Joyner. Jaw Joyner is a guy that was a little bit of a surprise. He was one of the guys that showed to be have a little bit of ability when he played at Minnesota. He did go undrafted, so he's a UDFA, and it's a little bit of a surprise. I think there's a couple other guys out there that may be pushing for snaps. Also, you take a look at guys like JJ Pegues and Tonka Hemingway, even Adam Butler at times have been playing on the outside as well. This is going to be a mishmash group where they kind of move up and down, I believe. But Jaw Joyner is the really first big surprise for me. I mean, Zach Carter was a little bit of a surprise, but Jaw Joyner is a little bit of a surprise for me making the team as a UDFA. Again, he's bendy, he's long, he's quick. He just needs to learn a little bit more about setting the edge against the run. But if you put him in obvious passing situations and just use him as depth, won't really be able to tell what he can do fully until we put the pads on. But I think it's going to be a big dogfight between Tyree and Snowden, who is the kind of the third man, the first guy off the bench at the edge. So we'll see how that goes as well. And Tyree may have a little bit of play kicked inside and the interior defensive line. All right, up next is the linebacking core. All right, linebacking core. I think this is fairly obvious as of right now. The two starters are going to be Jermaine Pratt and Elandon Roberts. These guys are probably the two best players who have shown to be the best players recently. Jermaine Pratt is, a recent play, if you're looking at that as anything, he's the best player out of the group. And Elandon Roberts was kind of like the leader of the linebackers before Pratt was signed. These guys are consummate professionals. They're going to get you in good spots. They're going to know the defense. They're going to be able to take good angles and be able to plug holes in the linebacking group. In the backup role, we have Devin White, Tommy Eichenberg, and Amari Gaynor. Another surprise for me is Cody Lindenberg not being a guy that is making the roster. I know he was a 7th-round pick, but he showed a lot of promise. He played a lot of positions in college. He played all 3 linebacker positions, and he did them all very well. It all depends on how good he is on special teams and how good he can show in practice and in the preseason. Can he be a guy that is deemed to be too valuable to try to slip into the practice squad? So we'll see how that works out here. This is a group that Tommy Eichenberg is going to have to take a big step up from last season. When he played in game, he looked like he was a half a step behind the play most times, and we'll see if he's learned going into the second season. That's usually a big jump for rookies going into the second season. So if that's the case, it looks like a pretty solid linebacking core. An area of weakness that I think we saw going into the offseason, and it looks like to be a pretty strong group heading into 2025. All right, up next are the corners. All right, here we go. Here's the corner group here, led by Eric Stokes, and a surprise to Sean Reed has Darian Porter starting over last year's starter, Jacorian Bennett. Now, look, let's face it, most times defenses are in the sub packages like nickel or more DBs, okay? And if that's the case, then it's going to be Jacorian Bennett getting a lot of snaps. Also, you have DeCam Richardson and Darnay Holmes. A couple of guys like, there was Sam Webb that could be out there. There's like a couple of the younger guys like Greedy Vance, Kai Blue Kelly, John Humphrey. Mello Dotson is a guy that was making a little bit of noise out of Kansas, the UDFA. But these are the guys. These are the safe picks here, okay? The safe picks to be able to go into the corner group. I think that they may add one more corner. If they do, it's going to be a corner of some substance. It's not going to be just a depth guy because they have plenty of depth at the bottom here. It's going to be a guy that's going to compete for a starting spot. And I think in that case, Darnay Holmes is going to be the odd man out. But these are the five as of right now, the way the roster is constructed in the eyes of Tashawn Reed, who are going to make the team. All right, let's go into safeties. All right, safety group. Safety group, again, it's pretty straightforward. You have Jeremy Chin, who was the unquestioned leader of the safeties, and you have Isaiah Polamalu, who's right there nipping at his heels 1A as far as leading leaders in the safety group. There's also Lotto Johnson Jr. and Thomas Harper. A lot of people may be saying, what's going on at the safety group? There's a couple of guys missing that I've been hearing a lot about. There's Chris Smith. There's Trey Taylor, who was a draft pick last season. What's going on with those guys? This is going to be something that last spot, that Thomas Harper spot's going to be a big spot. Look, Lotto Johnson is a special teams like ace. This dude's going to be on. He's going to make the team because of special teams. Okay, Chris Smith really hasn't developed the way that many had thought. He's a nice player to have on your practice squad because he's a good practice player. But as far as being in game, I don't know that he definitely has the foot speed to be able to keep up with a lot of these players in the NFL. And Trey Taylor, we'll see what's going on with his development. He got injured last season, and we'll see. That's kind of like the fight off for me is the Thomas Harper or Trey Taylor for that last spot in the safeties. All right, there's safety. Let's get a look at these special teamers. All right, special teamers. There's Daniel Carlson as kicker, AJ Cole as a punter, and Jacob Bobenmeyer as the long snapper. This pretty much, unless someone gets hurt, these are going to be the guys. So that's pretty much it. All right, guys, that's pretty much it, man. Let me know what you guys think of the 53-man roster per Tashawn Reed of The Athletic. What do you think? What are the battles? Would you flip a couple players here and there? Do we go with 6 wide receivers, or where do we take one away? There's a lot of debate to have here. Go ahead and let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Make sure everyone, please tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell everybody. Raiders versus Royals, Grace and Golden Raider Nation Day. All right, guys, that's my time. Till next time, everybody. Peace. Hey, Raider Nation. Thanks for watching. There's plenty more where that came from. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop a comment. Make sure to subscribe and share to all your socials. It's the bare minimum you can do without doing absolutely nothing.